Hello everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video, and in this one again I'm sharing some pages I've created using some of Dina's new release for March 2023. Here I'm playing with the Collage Sparks, and I'm going to show you how I've used one of these as what I'm calling it like a springboard to kind of get me going with my page. So I had a look through and I came across this one, and it'll be no surprise to you that of course it's the one with pinks and purples on, and I'm going to be using that as inspiration for starting my journal page. So I'm cutting my page in half, and then what I'm going to do is use this to extend the rest of my page. So using some double-sided tape, and I'm just going to stick that little edge on, just overlap it there onto the journal page itself. And then I am just going to cut a little bit off one edge, just because I'm going to be wanting to put this chipboard figure on the edge of my page, overlapping a little bit. So that's kind of like where I'm going to end up. I needed two of these figures, so the easiest way to do that was just to cut another one out of the craft cardstock that I had left from cutting the page in half and painting this white because I want it to match the figure that's going to be on the other side as well. It did take a couple of layers to make it completely white, so painting it, then drying it, and then giving it another coat of the white acrylic paint again. So I'm looking at the colours that are on the page, on the Collage Spark, and I'm using a bit of eggplant to start off with. I kind of felt that there was that sort of purpley colour in there, although this eggplant does look slightly darker than what was on there. There are some kind of tones of that colour. So then I'm going in with, I think that's Sky, and just adding a little bit of stenciling through the cover stencil. Then I've added a bit of white, not changed the blending tool, and I'm just going in again with this floor tile stencil and adding some more stenciling. So now, of course, using my favourite technique, I'm doing a bit of masking. I'm using night here because this page is all in kind of blues and pinks. I wanted the masking to not be too harsh, so that I felt that black would have been just a bit too overpowering, really. So decided to use night instead. It's a slightly softer dark, if that makes sense. It does to me. I'm not sure I've explained that very well, but yeah, it's less of a harsh contrast with everything else that's going on. And then I am just masking around this shape, which is from the Growing Things mask and stencil set. Dina's got so many lovely kind of botanical mask and stencil sets. They're just favourite ones that I reach for all the time. So then from the stencil part of this set, I'm going to put the stencil into the space that the mask left behind, and here I'm going in with the neon paint. This is the neon pink, it's the one called Stoked, and I'm going to layer that through the stencil. This was when I felt that this page really came alive. So the reason I've gone in with the neon pink is that looking at the Collage Spark, I kind of felt that there was a brightness to the pink that the magenta didn't really offer. And knowing how when you use the new neon colours over Dina's older paints, they just seem to bring some of them to life, and I think this really worked well. In fact, I'm almost certain this was the right move. I was quite happy with how that came together on that side. So then I've just flipped the page over, and looking at this page, I was kind of thinking like this looks a bit like mineral mixed with a little bit of night. So pulling that colour across onto the craft page. So you can see how I'm using the Collage Spark as a springboard to get me started, to use for my colour choices, and then kind of working out from there. I am in some cases going in my own direction, and here I'm using the Squoval stencil, and that looks like fuchsia. And then I've added a little bit of the Stoke to it again, just to pull out that brightness. You just see here how well that the Stoked neon, what it does to the other colours, it's just amazing. This is from the stencil that came out in the last release, I think, or was it the one before? And I cut it up into pieces. and I'm just using one of those pieces. So here I'm going to stick the two figures on using my double-sided tape gun, putting a little bit of tape on and just sticking that figure so it overlaps the edge of the page a little bit. And then I'm going to add some more tape and stick those together. I probably will end up just adding a staple through them as well, just to finally sort of anchor them in place too. So this is like my focal point for these pages, is the little figure. And then I'm using this jelly roll in a neon pink, and I'm just going to outline those botanical masked shapes. I think this works quite nicely with the page really, in the fact that it's not too much of a contrast. Like going around with the white would have worked as well, but I really like how this pink looks because it's there, but it's not completely in your face. So I was quite happy with how that worked. So here I'm just using my Dotty stamp from Funky Fossil and some white acrylic paint, and you see how this just softens the edge of the page where those images come onto the page. I love the effect that this gives. And then I flipped over again, so I was kind of like constantly working between the two sides, doing a bit on one side, flipping over, going back to the other side. Here I'm just adding some pieces of collage tissue paper onto the background. These are all from Dina Wakley. I tend to keep them all in a folder, so they're all mixed up. So I'm afraid I can't really say which pack they're from, but it's this is one of the pattern packs that these shapes are from, one of the early ones. And they work so well just to bring a little bit of pattern onto the background. And sometimes I like to put them over the top of my paint, and sometimes I like to put them underneath the paint. And I just think, you know, go with however you feel. So I'm using the same stencil, and I love this little collection of dots on there. So I've just gone in there with the white just to bring that contrast across the page from the figure, and to kind of marry those two things together. Now I'm just using this very large neon Posca pen and just adding some collections of marks onto my page. Again, that just helps to brighten and pull that pink out. Give those a quick dry. Then as a contrast with the colour, I am using some turquoise gloss spray splatters. Rather than using the stalk from inside, I just stick my tiny fan brush in and get some gloss spray on there and splatter it on. So then, as a slightly different way of getting my text on, I'm going to use some embossing powder. So I've got my embossing pad, and I'm just giving that a stamp. I'm going to stamp it onto some white paper. And then add some black embossing powder onto there. Give it a bit of a heat set. And that came out really nice and glossy. So that was a nice, slightly different way to get that text on my page. And then here I'm just adding a little bit of journaling onto the figure using my black pilot pen. Using that kind of a semic style of writing there just to get some thoughts down. Then here I've just cut out one of the little crowns from the new transparency pack. And then just because I felt this page was kind of lacking something, and I was going to use one of the metal rim tags. As you can see, it's just lurking there on that other page. And then I decided that I would cut out some of the circles from the transparency pack that's got the pattern play. I think it's pattern play 2. And I'm just going to stick those onto my page using some ultra thick gel medium. Then I'm using a quote from the Strong Women, no, it's not Strong Women, it's From the Past stamp set, and I'm using a quote from there. I'm stamping it onto black paper using the embossing ink again, and using some white embossing powder just to create that slightly different look with the quote, this time by stamping it white on black, seeing as it's going to go on a white figure. So really loving how this is all coming together. So that gets stuck down in place, and there we go. Here's the final finished pages using the Collage Sparks as a springboard. And there are so many sheets in these packs, they are well worth getting hold of. They give you a great starting point for a journal page. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Come back again tomorrow for another one, and I hope to see you again soon.